ridiculous. So let's move on to the NFL. And it's week one. Week one starts tomorrow night on Thursday. But this is an interesting season. There's a lot of storylines hitting in. And if you want to hear our opinion on the offseason and kind of our previews, you can go back to some previous videos on the YouTube channel. But week one, all except for one in terms of matchups, they're all intriguing to me. And I think that's not going to be the case moving forward.
Yeah, there's some great matchups this week, and it's because we're all operating off of assumptions, right? What we
Yes.
think these teams are going to be. Yeah, and as we get down the road here and reality rears its ugly head, it's going to change things, but definitely some intrigue.
Yeah, I would say assumptions and questions because there are a lot of teams with intrigue because we don't know. But Thursday night, Ravens at Chiefs. This is a rematch of the AFC Championship game this past year that was very close. And I think this is one of those where I think that the Ravens need it more than the Chiefs because I think the Chiefs can come out, they lose a game, everybody still believes in them. Mahomes is the guy, Andy Reid's the guy, all that stuff. I think they can get a pass for one game, but I hate to say that a week one game is an early litmus test, but I think that it is for the Ravens.
So the NFL season is so long now that we've seen teams get up to slow starts and things like that, and things turn out just fine for them. So I don't know if we're going to learn anything necessarily on Thursday night. I think most people believe that these are going to be two teams that are challenging for the AFC and the Super Bowl. Um, but it will be interesting to see where they stack up right now. Right, where are they? Which team is getting off on the right foot the quickest? I do love that the NFL starts the season with a good matchup like this.
Me
Every
too.
year, which is nice. And it's that's one thing that's nice about college. I mean, yeah, sure, once in a while some teams get sort of depleted or this or that, but like in college, man, with the transfer portal, some of these teams are just getting like completely overhauled. Where in the NFL, there's more consistency from year to year, and so you can really make some assumptions and predictions based off of the last year's results, right? And I think we're in for a good game. This will probably be the only quality Thursday night football game all year long.
Most likely.
But we get it right out of the gates, man. And then we double up with action on Friday, which is wonderful.
I know you love Thursday night football, but we have Jeremy here in the comments taking the Chiefs at 8-9 in the playoffs and still not writing them off. The hottest of takes early on in the season. If the Chiefs
I
are
agree.
8-9, something happened.
I mean, it's Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Like as long as that duo is together, I don't think that you can not. I mean, same with Belichick and Brady, man. You can't write them off.
Don't disagree. And then, of course, we have football on Friday, and it's in Brazil, and that makes all the sense in the world for the NFL. But it's the Packers and the Eagles. I believe neither team is allowed to wear green, which is slightly strange because both teams, their primary color is green. However, we have Jalen Hurts and we have Jordan Love. And the question here is Jordan Love got paid off of basically one season. How are the Packers going to look? Can they build off last year? Were they a year ahead? And you have said it, the weirdness in Philadelphia. You think it's going to continue? You think that it's a Nick Sirianni problem? And at the end of the day, if they're going to get rid of the quarterback or the coach, they're going to get rid of the coach first. It's kind of what I'm looking for. How do the Eagles look in terms of the weirdness? Because I think it tells me more about the Eagles than it does about the Packers personally.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Packers are going to be pretty good this year, no matter how this game pans out, barring some major injury or something. More curious, as you mentioned, about how things look for the Eagles. Just like, do they seem like they are, operating on the same page? Are they cohesive? Do there seem to be any sort of rifts? And I mean, most of the time at the pro level, even if there are personality conflicts, they do a pretty good job at putting that shit to the side for the interest of winning. But when it's the quarterback, it's a little different, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
So, especially when it's a younger head coach, not an established, head coach or whatever. So, we'll see how things go. I agree. I'm very, very curious about the Eagles. I think it's going to be a good football game nonetheless. And yeah, Brazil, like my dad's like super triggered by this. I had to hear all about it earlier.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, it's a weird market that it doesn't seem like the NFL would want to go to. I mean, Tom Brady's not even dating Giselle anymore. So, like, what's the difference, right? So we'll see what happens. And speaking of Tom Brady, so in a game that completely hurts my heart, knowing that the Patriots are going to be god-awful this year, the Patriots traveled to Cincinnati to face the returning Joe Burrow and maybe Jamar Chase. He did practice today, hasn't signed a long-term deal. We'll see how that goes. But the way I'm looking at this positively is this is year zero for the Patriots. They're starting Jacoby Brissett. Their offensive line sucks. And so why put out Drake May if he's going to absolutely get murdered? And maybe over the course of the year, you start putting him in, get him some reps. But I'm not expecting anything out of the Patriots this year. And I think if we're looking at anything, it's how does Burrow look after another injury? And can Burrow stay healthy, quite honestly?
Yeah, curious to see how Joe Burrow looks coming off the injury. His career has been plagued by them to this point in the pro level, outside of the year they went to the Super Bowl. So I got to give the Patriots credit. Kudos to them for letting Drake May marinate
I agree.
and cook because nobody does that anymore, right? And I mean, Aaron Rodgers got to do that. A lot of these other successful guys got to do that, and now it's play the young guy as quickly as possible. Normally, it's because he's extremely talented, and you're not paying him much, and so you're trying to pay all the talent around him and make your run. That's it seems like that's sort of the recipe for success sometimes in the NFL, at least for quick success. But the guy's got to be good enough, and I mean, it's worked out a few times. Worked out for like Russell Wilson in Seattle, but I mean,
He stole
it's
that
sort of
job.
lightning in a bottle, though. When that
Yes.
happens, it's not sustained success, and I think that the Patriots are handling this the right way for sustained success. And it's always tough to be the guy that follows the guy, right? We're talked about it with Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. Um, what's his face in New England? I can't
Gerard
remember.
Mayo,
Gerard Mayo.
Super Bowl champion, put some respect on his name.
It feels a lot more like it just feels a lot more like Sharon Moore taking over for Jim Harbaugh. Gerard Mayo taking over for Belichick. Like it's because he was on the staff, right? And
He was, yeah.
so it's like, okay, you hired a guy on the inside with the belief of trying to keep things probably mostly the same. I mean, operationally, maybe.
I think in some ways they're trying to change it because I think Gerard Mayo, being a former player, especially in that organization, he hasn't done anything in the NFL that has been outside of the Patriots organization. So there's a lot of familiarity there. Obviously played under Belichick, but isn't trying to be Bill Belichick. And I think that's really, I really think that that is what they're going for, is something a little bit different because all the reports said that players hated it that last year. And some of it's due to Belichick, most of it's due to his relationship with Bob Kraft, having nothing to do with the players themselves. And I'm sure that that became a like a lightning rod for strife. And I think they're trying to reset everything. And so Bob Kraft, who is ancient, he looks like he belongs on British currency now. He honestly should, yeah, he honestly he could be in win now mode and try to rush this out. But he's playing the long game here, and he's given Gerard Mayo the ability to kind of ply his craft. And why get the kid killed? And I want to bring up a comment here about Drake May being like Joe Burrow in his first year. And Joe Burrow did get hit a lot his first year. He got crushed. And that's one of the things that has plagued him is injuries. And when you have a bad offensive line, just go ask how many rookie quarterbacks get killed their first year because they're on bad teams. And so let Jacoby Brissett go out there and do his thing, and we'll see what happens. I think that the Bengals are going to be fine if Joe Burrow stays healthy, especially if Jamar Chase plays. Expect them to win this game. I think organizationally the Patriots are doing the right thing. And then the
Jacoby
Steelers.
Brissett's no slouch.
No,
He's just getting old, I think.
no, he is old. You don't have to say getting. He is old. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. He's had a lot of reps. He's been with this organization. I think they're doing the right thing. But speaking of two franchises who are changing quarterbacks, Steelers at the Falcons. Now, this one's fascinating because the Falcons feel really good, I think, mostly about their guy. They signed Kirk Cousins to a big deal in the offseason and then strangely drafted Michael Penix Jr., which was kind of odd because he's so old now in terms of rookie quarterbacks in the league. And then you got the Steelers who got Russ, traded basically peanuts for Justin Fields. It seemed like there was a quarterback controversy in the offseason. And in the end, Mike Tomlin was like, nope, Russ is our guy. And I'm kind of weirdly intrigued by the Steelers this year.
Yeah, there's definitely more drama around the Steelers than there's been in a while.
Yes.
And so that's interesting. I think that we talked not to we talked about this I guess when we did a little crunch time action, but this seems like the moment, right? The prime moment to doubt the Steelers, which makes me think that they're going to do the total opposite and come out and they're going to look great. They didn't look good in the preseason. Um, Russ is old. Justin Fields not very good,
I don't
at
think
least
so.
based on his performance in Chicago. There's not a lot there on paper to be optimistic about, and I feel like in some weird way that's right where Mike Tomlin wants him, you know? And,
Yeah, he's not scared.
no, not at all. And if he manages to make the playoffs, this might be one of his most impressive coaching years to date.
Well,
Uh,
this is a funny game though, because if Russ or Kirk Cousins throws an interception early, much like you talked about with Notre Dame, the fan bases are going to be just get him out of here. Like both of these guys, I feel like are on short
is
leases for
Penix
different
hurt?
reasons. I don't know if he's hurt or not, but Kirk Cousins comes with that weird prime time stigma
Right.
that he can't do it in prime time. And I think Russ just maybe washed at this point. So this could be fascinating. I kind of wish we could go on a Steelers and Falcons message board to see what the fans are saying after the first bit of
Sure.
things not going
Well,
well.
Kirk Cousins in Atlanta just feels so weird. Um, I don't know how to explain it. It would be like I don't know. It's a strange fit, I think. So maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
a match made in heaven.
It probably is in some way. That's a good point.
Because
Kirk,
Minnesota was seems so appropriate.
yes, yes, and white is what you're talking to, I believe. Atlanta, I don't see Kirk walking around Hotlanta all that much, but hey, you never know. Kirk might be a man of the people. So moving right along, Kyler Murray and Maserati Marv are traveling to Buffalo. Now it's not the middle of winter, so it should be decent weather up there in Buffalo to face Josh Allen and insert any other Bill offensive player that you know, because I can't name too many of them. But we both are kind of in the camp that you have Josh Allen, so you have a chance. But if the team around it is not very good, it could be a little bit of a down year. And who knows? Kyler Murray, is he better than the stature that people give him? I know that he's very talented, but traditionally, quarterbacks of his size don't stick around too long and don't do too well. But now he's got a fancy new toy who's very, very fast. This could be an interesting one because I feel like the Bills should win this game, but it tells me a lot if Kyler and the boys are able to keep it close and if Kyler has a real connection with Marv.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see Marvin Harrison Jr. Guy's extremely talented. Being a Colts fan, obviously, I was a big fan of his father. The guy's a great. And speaking of his father, though, takes me to Buffalo and Josh Allen. Yes, Peyton Manning had Marvin Harrison, and he had Reggie Wayne. But also, think of how many. I feel like Peyton Manning. If you're a great quarterback, you're able to make somebody out of some nobodies. And,
True.
is Josh Allen able to do that? Now, normally these guys were supplemental pieces to the Marvin Harrisons and Reggie Waynes of the world. Um, Josh Allen doesn't have that right now. It doesn't seem, but I think that it's more important to have a great quarterback and at least some talent you can work with at receiver, even if it's unknown talent, than it is to have elite receiver play and not a great quarterback. So I would much rather be in the situation that the Bills are in than some other franchises. But I think it's certainly intriguing to see where are the Bills offensively and how quickly can Kyler and Marv get on the same page.
Should also be noted that DeMar Hamlin will be making his first start since his cardiac arrest. So that's a pretty cool storyline for those of
It
you
is
who
for
like
sure.
that sort of thing. Probably makes some people nervous, but still pretty neat. Titans and Bears, a matchup that we may never talk about ever again. But the only reason I want to bring it up is because you have Will Levis, who's going to be in his first season as the starter in Tennessee, and you have Caleb Williams, who's going to be in his rookie year with the Bears. A lot of people, and it's not just a lot of people, it's other people like in political football land, think that the Bears have a real shot of being good because Caleb Williams is going to do really well, and they have definitely put some pieces around him. I think that he is going to struggle a little bit because all rookies do, but I'm fascinated to see what he looks like. He's at home in his debut, and the Titans are a team that he should be able to do some things against because they are kind of on the downturn. What do you think?
So, man, I've really come like done a 180, man, on Caleb Williams. Coming out of college, I was not high on him at all. had some serious doubts about his character. I never doubt his talent, but I think I just had more doubts about his character and like kind of what sort of what was he made of. Um, and I think Hard Knocks kind of pulled the curtain back on some of that a little bit. I haven't watched a ton of it, but I've watched enough to draw a conclusion. And for hearing some other stories along the way about the way that he handles himself with the team, and they're little things, but they're things that kind of speak volumes to someone like me. And the one, this is so insignificant probably to most people, but the one that sticks out is he's getting on teammates about picking up after themselves. And I'm like, that's like that. I mean, it's so small as that is, because he's like, these janitors, their job is like to clean the stuff that's actually dirty, not to pick up your mess or whatever. And as insignificant as that is, like that speaks volumes to me, because that's somebody that's got some self awareness and that knows how to treat people, even the little people, if you will. That he doesn't turn his nose up at anybody. So I like that, and I'm typically it's one of my favorite things during football season. Living in Central Illinois is making fun of Bears fans for their irrational behavior, and
No. Sorry,
I
Ryan
just
Muskets.
love it, man. Like, because it's such an emotional roller coaster. But I'm hopeful for them. I am rooting for the Bears. I'm rooting for Caleb Williams to be successful, because it is a lot of fun. Like, especially where I live, when the Bears are good, man, people are so jacked. And also because of that, no matter what happens on Saturday, good or bad, they will 1000% overreact in one
Oh yeah.
direction or the other. There will be an intense overreaction. If they win, they're going to be buying Super Bowl tickets, and if they lose, someone will be putting for sale signs in front of his house or whatever. So it's they're a passionate fan base, although misguided at times. But I'm in their corner this year.
I love to hear it. So the next game, Texans traveling to Indianapolis to face the Colts. Richardson coming back, Stroud in his second year. How are you feeling about the Colts?
Gosh, I don't know, man. The Colts feel like the '90s Bulls. -5 championships, but they were great when they had an all-time great, right? One of the best to ever play the game. And I'm really fearful that they're going to sort of fall. I mean, the Bulls are sort of one of the most inept franchises in the NBA now. They've just kind of been garbage. And I'm really fearful that the Colts may end up there. Jim Irsay is kind of one of those owners that's a little off the rails. And so we'll see how things go. We got two young guys, right? Two second year guys battling. The difference is one got hurt and didn't play hardly at all last year. The other
Yep.
one was the rookie of the year. So, as has CJ Stroud, is he gonna have a sophomore slump, or are they gonna be ready to go? Because I mean, everybody thought the Texans were gonna be completely dog crap last year, and yeah, and they were not. So we'll see. Are they ready to build on what happened last year? Can the Colts get on track? I mean, I feel like the Colts have been a fringe playoff team here for a couple, they're always right there, it seems. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if Anthony Richardson is the guy, if he can get him going. But I don't have a lot of strong opinions other than just my fear about or maybe my apprehension about the track of the organization as a whole.
A man that people have a lot of opinions on would be Tua Tagovailoa. So he is hosting Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. And this is interesting to me because this is what I would consider an embattled quarterback in Tua, who has put up good numbers in the system that he's been in. He's been hurt a lot, but when he plays, he's good. Just doesn't do it down the stretch. And then you got Trevor Lawrence, who was the next Andrew Luck. And I would say, and I think you said it too, that he really hasn't lived up to the billing. So this game is fascinating because both of these guys got paid recently, so they don't have to worry about the generational wealth part, but now they have to win football games. And I feel like this is the kind of game where the Dolphins would win because it's early on in the season. But I think that it says more about Trevor Lawrence here because I think that he, in my opinion, should have to show more because of the praise that he got, especially being the number one overall pick.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and Doug Peterson, he's a good football coach. This guy won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles, right? I
Is
mean,
he though?
and
So that's a good question though, because at what point do you become a mid head coach like let's say a Mike McCarthy or I'm going to say a Sean Payton? We all know how I feel about him, but both of those guys won one Super Bowl. Now Doug Peterson did it with Nick Foles, but obviously a super talented football team behind it. And then things kind of fell apart after that. Has he been able to kind of get the machine rolling in Jacksonville? I don't know.
Well, and I'll admit, man, I'm pretty ignorant about the makeup of Jacksonville's roster outside of
Who
Trevor
isn't?
Lawrence. I mean, but I mean, all you need, I mean, the guy's supposed to be extremely talented, and he is. But I mean, playing football at a high level in the NFL is something that very few people on the planet have been able to do. So, is he able to take that next step, be that guy? I'm very curious to see if the Dolphins, are they ready? They've kind of flirted with being one of the big boys here in the last couple of years. Like, can they really like take that step? I mean, especially in the AFC. I mean, it's been dominated by the Chiefs and the Bills, and you got the Bengals there. So, do they want to join the party? Very curious to see. I mean, how often this year do you think you see a sign that says "Hawk Tua Tagovailoa" in the
Nice.
stands?
I like where you're going. But let me see, here's an assertion. So, is it possible that Tua is a system quarterback that's working in this system, but Trevor Lawrence might be a better quarterback overall, but all the systems that he has had in Jacksonville just haven't worked to whatever his strengths are?
I do think that it's fair to say that Tua might be a systemish quarterback.
And if the system
Um,
works, that's fine. I'm just
yeah,
saying I think he is.
um, yeah. Trevor Lawrence, I don't know, man. Like that's what's so interesting about seeing these guys that are elite at the college level is because they're generally surrounded by other elite players. Like, you might be the best quarterback in the country, but that receiver might be the best receiver in the country. That tight end might be the best tight end in the country. And four of your five offensive linemen may be the best at their position in the country. In the NFL, that's not the case. In the margin between the best guy and the best guy and the 20th best guy is very small. And so I don't know if it's an adjustment to playing with maybe not having head and shoulders the best talent on the field and playing against better talent regularly. If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm articulating it well enough,
No,
but
I get what you mean.
uh, yeah, I wonder some guys handle that better than others. Probably more handle it poorly than handle it well, I would think.
Things might have been easier at Alabama than they were or than they are in the NFL for Tua. I mean, I know they played in the SEC and they played a lot of hard teams, but the talent around him there was pretty damn good. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence had a talented squad as well, but I think that they played a little bit different. But I understand your
Yeah, like
point.
Josh Allen at Wyoming, the guys he played with are probably like accountants or
Yeah,
something.
they're
You know what I mean?
probably going to get me my rental car over at Enterprise here pretty
Yes, like
soon.
seriously though, like that's exactly the case.
Speaking of people that are going to be working at Enterprise, you got Danny Dimes and possibly even Brian Dayball as they host the Vikings this weekend. Now, this game on paper sucks because the Giants are probably not going to be very good. The Vikings are starting Sam Darnold, but the fascinating part to me, the Vikings are road favorites. That doesn't say a lot about the Giants to me.
Oh boy. No, it doesn't. Who's starting a quarterback for the Sam Darnold, right?
Yes, mm-hmm.
I mean, phew, boy.
His like
Um,
eighth team.
I mean, yeah, and he has not shown anything anywhere. That is not good for the Giants. The once proud New York Giants. Um, you hate to see it. The to pay Daniel Jones what they paid him is absolutely insane. I
A
wish
bargain by today's standards, though.
well, maybe so, but and then to let Saquon walk like all in the same off season is just very strange. But um, are there too many other places where you could be? We talked about this before, where you could be as average or below average at your job, but get paid near the top of your field. Like
I don't know.
I mean,
I
just
mean,
based off like projections, most of the time it's like you get paid for work you've already done, right? Like, you earn, okay, like based off thing you were probably underpaid, and then you get paid for sort of the accomplishments you've had. Where in the NFL, it's sort of like they are paying you for what they hope you do in the future. And I feel like there's
somewhat.
enough evidence there for Daniel Jones for them to like maybe pump the brakes on that a little bit. I was pretty optimistic about him coming out of Duke. But Yeah,
Not at number 5 or whatever he was
things have
selected at.
not. Well, that's on par with the Mitch Trubisky pick, man. Just like, what in the hell are you thinking?
Yep. But it's
And
also
I'd like to see
indicative.
the list of like who was chosen after him in that draft at the quarterback position. Who was
That'd be
chosen
fun.
after Daniel Jones and pull that up. But
That'll be fun. I'm
uh,
sure that would probably be
yeah.
a good show. Poor Daniel Jones. But I assume if this year doesn't go well, they may even sit Daniel Jones at some point. But is Dayball safe? Do you think that they just try and move on with a new quarterback with this coach because maybe that's not his guy?
I don't know. I think part of it depends on just how much. I mean, I don't know what the relationship is like with him and the GM and the owner. I think the GM might be in more trouble than Dayball, possibly.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
at the end of the day, though, if you're not winning games, somebody's got to answer for it. And how quickly can you move off of a quarterback that you're paying that much to?
I'm sure there's accountants that get paid a lot of money to figure that kind of stuff out. But they did draft Malik Neighbors this year, who was a great receiver out of LSU, another guy that Brian Kelly lost. So he has weapons. He should be able
Yeah,
to
so
make
we'll see.
something work, but I don't know. It's just not a good look when the Vikings, who just lost their rookie quarterback, are favorites on the road against your team.
No.
Raiders and Chargers. So Jim Harbaugh starts his NFL debut part due at home, and he's got Justin Herbert. He's got a team that on paper should be talented. The Raiders on paper shouldn't be very good, but they've got the pesky Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback. So you're always sort of in it, probably sort of out of it too. I believe that Jim Harbaugh is going to be fine because he's been fine everywhere that he goes. Like, I do not doubt that he's going to do something. The question that I have is, are the Chargers cursed, and can he actually get over that?
So yes, I think that Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers are going to be successful. I feel
I
very
agree.
good about that. In terms, I feel like, so on the Raider side, I'm on record, big Gardner Minshew fan.
Yes.
Is he going to be? Is he like the Ryan Fitzpatrick of this generation? Like
He might be now. Yeah.
journeyman quarterback. Plays for a bunch of franchises, but also wins a lot of games. Just doesn't win enough to like be a franchise guy.
Never wins enough in the moments you need him to win enough.
Right.
The moments you need him, as Jets fans, he throws 4 picks.
He's good enough to get you to the moment, just not good enough to win in the moment.
Yeah, you take him to the dance.
Like Brian Kelly.
Brutal.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But
You're right.
no, I feel good about the Chargers. It might take them a year to really compete to win the AFC. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll find out how bad of a coach Brandon Staley was real quick, I think.
Yeah, I was not a fan.
No, and this days in the modern NFL, it's so difficult to have a defensive-minded head coach. It just it just doesn't jive. And especially if you don't, I don't know, if you don't have elite talent on offense to sort of offset your filtered perception of what's I don't know. You can't have a defensive-minded head coach. That's my opinion.
Yeah, not in today's NFL. So, Broncos at Seahawks. Now, my boy Sean Payton is starting Bo Nix, I believe, and Bo Nix was made a captain of this team. So, Sean Payton is trying to recreate Drew Brees and an older quarterback that is known for throwing the ball like 6 yards down the field in college, basically. That's what he did at Oregon. And then you've got Geno Smith, who is definitely in his last year. Pete Carroll is no longer there. They're a team, I feel like, that if you get one injury, like Tyler Lockett's old now. What the heck is his name?
DK Metcalf's old too, right?
Yeah, DK Metcalf. He's not old, but he's definitely not getting any younger. I feel like one of those guys goes down, the season is on the line. But I think really, is Sean Payton washed? That's the question that I want answered. I'm not sure Bo Nix is the guy to do that with long term.
I don't know, man. Broncos country, let's ride. I think
that did not work the last 2 years, by the way. Just stop.
I don't know, man. I feel good about the Broncos. I think this might be like.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious, man. Like, I think that I don't think as poorly of Sean Payton as you do. I'll say that. I think that the Broncos have a chance to be decent. They play in a tough division because I think the Chargers are going to be good. Obviously, the Chiefs are really good, but we'll see about the Raiders. But I mean, I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be much improved over last year. Bo Nix will take his lumps, but if Sean Payton is the offensive guy that everyone portrays him to be, then because there's at least today you can still blame a lot of what happened last season on Russ.
Yes, you
Today.
can. You're
Now
right.
we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the Steelers and the Broncos, and the proof will kind of come out. But I think that the Broncos are going to be okay.
Good for you. I do not. I am not
I love it. I
not a
love that we
Sean
have
Payton
this.
guy. I
I
hate
love
that.
that we
I
have this.
cannot stand him. Cowboys at Browns. So this is fascinating to me because the Browns, I think, are assumed that they're going to be good, but we don't actually know if Deshaun Watson is very good. Now, they did restructure his contract to make some room. Myles Garrett, I think, is going to be elite as he always is. Nick Chubb is probably not going to be back. So this is an interesting team that maybe is lacking a few weapons. On the other side, you get the Cowboys coming in who are all in, as we've discussed. And Mike McCarthy has this team with Dak who didn't get paid. CeeDee Lamb did get paid. I think he's the highest paid receiver, like second highest paid receiver in the league or something like that. So he got paid. The question is, the Cowboys have talent. Are they going to be able to finally shine in the moments that we now know them not to shine in? I think Dak is 2-5 in the playoffs as a starter, and I don't know. I'm down on the Cowboys this year because I think that they're not all in the way that Jerry thinks that they're all in, and I'm wondering if maybe some of the players, looking at Dak specifically, are already thinking to next year.
Well, I don't know if you've been to Cleveland or when the last time was, but nothing shines in Cleveland at all. Um, and isn't it funny too at the same time how just one calendar year can essentially push Deshaun Watson's off the field issues into oblivion, where no, you know what I mean? It's just long gone.
Screw
Nobody
him.
even considers it anymore. Uh, and he looked good when he played, so that's all that matters to people. And I think we knew that last year too. But definitely a sort of an intriguing matchup because the Cowboys always come with tons of expectations, and Cleveland desperate for a winner. They paid Deshaun Watson a bunch of money to be the guy, and you know, I I don't know, man. Like it's just I have a hard time picking a game like that because I'm with you. I'm not as anti McCarthy and Dak as some people might be, but I'm certainly not like pro McCarthy and Dak. Um, they are very, very just less than great. Like that's
Solid,
where you
if
know what I
not
mean? Yes.
spectacular.
Yeah. And so but that's not enough, right? That's not enough
No.
for Cowboys fans. That's not enough in the NFL. But um if they lose to Cleveland, then I feel like that makes things a little more interesting, don't you?
Oh, the fan bases are just going to go insane, and you're going to get it one way or the other. I mean, the
Is,
Cowboys
is
are like Notre Dame.
is there a point where Mike McCarthy loses his job midseason?
No, I don't. I
Think
mean, they'd
so?
have to be really bad.
But
Like,
actually, I think that like Jerry Jones, like he's never fired a coach midseason, right? Has
I
he?
don't. I don't know if he has or not. But all I know, I keep saying he kept Jason Garrett for that long with not that much to show for it. So I don't think he's going to get rid of Mike McCarthy in the middle. Yeah, clapping for sure. Hall of Fame clapper, absolutely. In the same Hall of Fame as Pete Carroll with his gum chewing. Two more matchups to go. Matt Stafford and the Rams traveled to Detroit to face your boy, MCDC, and the Lions. I like to call him Man Campbell. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, Matt Stafford, I feel like, has got to be on his last leg as a good starter in this league because he's getting old. He's been hurt. And Man Campbell and the Lions are coming off a season where they almost made it to the Super Bowl. It's going to be a lot of expectations here. It's a playoff rematch. And I feel like this is the kind of game, though, that Dan Campbell's the perfect coach for. Like, he's not going to let them overlook this game. He's not going to let them get super deep into the emotion of this game. It's the first game in a very long season. He's going to have them ready, in my opinion.
Well, what I think we're going to see is in the modern era of football, of professional football, is the gritty toughness, like bite the kneecaps mentality is that have staying power, right? And of course, I think you can get people to buy into that when you're winning, like they did last year, and we'll find out how entrenched that culture is in Detroit. I think. I hope it's well entrenched because I love it. and I would love nothing more than to see them go back and have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But I mean, there's not a fan base that deserves it more, in my opinion. This matchup, though, I think after losing there last year in the NFC champ, or no, excuse me, to go to the NFC Championship game, I think that the Rams are going to come back this year. Like, you're going to have the emotion of the moment of Matt Stafford's return. I think that it's going to be business as usual for them. I agree. Matt Stafford is probably on his last lap here as a, you know, an established starter, I would imagine. So at least as far as someone that's got the physical tools to do it at a high level. So, I mean, I expected the game to be competitive, but I'd have a hard time picking against my boys, man. And so for that reason, I like the Lions.
I think a fascinating narrative that's not being talked about is you got Sean McVay, who's seen as this like high-minded coach, and then you have Dan Campbell, who is seen as this gritty coach, but he also plays into analytics. And on the heels of last year, where a lot of people were skeptical about the use of analytics and the decisions that Dan Campbell made in the biggest game of his coaching career, and it will be interesting if he does that again, if he sticks to his guns, which I think that he will, how that's perceived. If they start losing games more frequently because of some of the decisions that he makes. And it's funny though, because as you said, he's an older school kind of mentality when it comes to biting the kneecaps and stuff, but he's very progressive when it comes to the way that he coaches the football team in game. That's something that I'm looking forward to seeing is how he handles that. Does he change it up a little bit? He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would though.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I mean, come on, like that they showed the guys doing up downs with the team in training
You love
camp.
that stuff. I know you
Oh
do.
my gosh, it's so I just yeah, I mean, as a player, man, how do you not just respect the hell out of that guy? Because that guy's not asking you to do anything that he's not willing to do himself. Um,
You're so
and I
old.
mean, but seriously, man, like you got to take that. I mean, that deserves respect. If you're watching that, and then, or you see insert random whoever head coach cruising around practice on his golf cart or whatever, you know,
Sean Payton,
probably. I mean, give me.
asshole.
I don't know, man. Like I feel like Dan Campbell is the kind of guy that if you ran into him somewhere, he would not big time you at all. He would treat you just like any other person and be the most genuine. I mean, I think he'd be exactly the person that you see. I think that he is the most genuine coach in the National Football League.
I think that's fair. He'd hopefully buy me a beer if I saw him,
I
but
think he would.
he
He'd
probably would come
probably
on this
like
show too. He just loves
drink his
stuff like
chug
this.
a bottle of beer and smash the bottle over his head.
That's right. And last game is intriguing because it's Aaron Rodgers again making a Monday night debut for the Jets again, just not on September 11th. And the question is, will Aaron Rodgers play more than 4 snaps? He has to. But I think really, if we're being serious, how do the Jets look this season? And this is a big game for them because historically, Rodgers hasn't looked good against Kyle Shanahan led 49ers teams in the last like 5 or 6 years. And it's a big hurdle because the 49ers, I think, are perceived to be really good. We talked about how there's question marks. I mean, Ayuk's there now, but is there weird drama in the background? And do they really believe in Brock Purdy? Questions remain here, but this feels like the kind of game that the 49ers can lose and still be okay, much like the Chiefs. We need to see it from the Jets.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird you say that, like that he hasn't performed well against Kyle Shanahan teams because Kyle Shanahan's almost like he's known as an offensive guru, right?
The
But maybe that
49ers
gives you
teams.
a unique insight. Maybe that gives him a unique insight into how to stop Aaron Rodgers, right? How to stop a good offense. But I, I mean, yes, the Jets have had some internal strife a little bit, but I mean, what team doesn't? I guess during training camp with holdouts and everything else, and I think the guys just realized to some degree it's just business. But I, I don't know, man. I'm hopeful. I think that it would kind of bum me out to see, you see Rodgers go to the Jets, get injured, and if he were to come out this year, just the guy's a really talented, really good quarterback, and to see him go out like that would be rough. And so I wouldn't mind seeing him having like a Brett Favre esque like finish to his career where he's still competing and making the playoffs and stuff like that. And the Jets are one of those fan bases too that when the Jets are good, they're fun. And it's a fun fan base to have engaged. throughout the season and into the postseason. And obviously, I mean, our boy Cleve, right?
Yes.
Nobody deserves a winner like Cleve.
And that's what you said about the Lions. And so that means that nobody deserves a winner more than Dave. But I think a player to watch in the
Lions
Jets
and Jets in the Super Bowl
this week would be Brees Hall, because there's a lot of young talent. But I think having a young, explosive running back on a team with a 40-year-old quarterback coming off of that kind of injury could actually probably add some years or some snaps to Aaron Rodgers' career. And it'll be interesting to see how they gel together. This was supposed to be year 2, so they were kind of supposed to ascend last year, and this was supposed to be their year. They've got to do it all now.
So I might be wrong, but I feel like in 2 seasons that he has been hurt in the first game of the season, like season-ending injury. I think he got hurt against the Bears
He
a
did,
few
but he
years ago,
played that
and it
whole
was like
season,
week
though.
1. Did he? I thought he like broke his collarbone or something.
No, remember that was the game where he had no ligament in his knee, and he still came back and ended up throwing like
Wasn't
5
that like
touchdowns.
a hip drop tackle or something like that too?
It was
maybe,
something like that. Yeah, he couldn't scramble worth a damn, but he was throwing
I
dimes.
thought he okay.
And
I thought he like missed the season.
He effing owns them. Don't forget
No,
that.
because who the hell, dude? He got hurt early in the year one year.
We'll have to send this off to the interns to figure out. Because
then they I can't remember.
Where's your dad?
The
Get
name
your
of the,
dad
I
in
can't
here.
remember the name of the guy that played backup for him, but he was not good at all.
I know who you're talking about. You're talking about the guy who played at Notre Dame, the quarterback for Notre Dame.
No.
Yeah, wasn't it the guy Keyshawn? Oh shoot, I'll remember the name after we're done.
No, Deshaun Kaiser. No.
Yeah, thought he was really bad.
Yeah, no. No. This is probably before that dude even played at Notre Dame. I don't know. We'll have to look it up later.
We will look
the
it
interns
up.
on it.
Yeah, we'll get the interns on it. Your
Put on the poll, Guillermo.
65-year-old intern that you have sitting in the next room who can look it up for us and bring it to you on paper. Well, we went through all the week 1 NFL matchups. We'd love to know what you think. As of course, if you're listening here, call in 703-718-6314 is the number to do that. Be like Justice from Jackson, Mississippi, and leave us a first-time, long-time voicemail. However, before we get out of here, we do have a little bit of business to finish up with. Iceman stat of the week, as always. Coach, I have a stat this week about rookie quarterbacks. Are you ready?
Love me some rookie quarterbacks, Iceman. Can't wait.
Well, we talked about Caleb Williams earlier, so this stat is apropos for him. However, the last 15 quarterbacks to be selected number 1 overall have a combined record of 0-14-1. Can you name the last quarterback to win his debut selected number 1 overall?
Oh boy, last quarterback. I'd have to know the quarterbacks that were selected number 1 overall.
It's a super ironic one too.
Is it really?
Yes.
I don't know. Andrew Luck.
It would be David Carr in 2002. Wow. I know. And that was for
the only game he ever won.
I know. That's why I said it's super ironic. But you go through the list, and all these guys, some of the stats were horrible in their first game. 4 INT game for Alex Smith. He obviously ended up being okay. I mean, you got a lot of names of guys who were picked number 1 overall. And just because that stat is there doesn't mean Caleb Williams can't win this game this weekend or mean he's not going to be fine. But certainly the numbers don't look good for guys that have been selected since David Carr to make their debut. But David Carr was so funny because that's the guy who everybody talks about. When you talk about Drake May, that's the example that I think of. The guy who gets obliterated and his career stinks.
No, I agree. And I'm glad they're protecting him from that.